Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Wassalamu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Blessings and peace on my spiritual master and guide Muhammad, his family, his worthy companions, and peace. I'm going to move on to talk about the respect that we pay our mothers, or the respect that we think we pay our mothers. And I'll go to one of the women that is central to what we are going to be celebrating, and that is Hajira alayhi salam, alayha salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was instructed by Allah to travel with his spouse Hajira alayhi salam and their newborn son Ismail alayhi salam into Arabia, into what is now called Mecca, which was then just a barren, it's still kind of barren. If anyone's been for Umrah or for Hajj, you can see that it's literally blasted out of rock, and that all there is rock and sand except for Zamzam. But it is also here where Adam and Eve first built the foundations of the Kaaba. And traditional mosques will tell you that it was only Adam, but then ask yourself what Eve was doing. Right? And it was here in the valley that Ibrahim left his wife and his son with a few dates and a little bit of water, and walked away. And the traditions tell us that Hajar followed him and said, "Dude, what you doing?" And she asked him 3 times and he didn't reply. And finally she said to him, "Has God instructed you to do this?" Right? And he said, "Yes." At which point she says, as her response to the submission to God, "Then Allah will take care of us." In a long hadith narrated by Ibn Abbas, he narrates the Prophet's narration he reports the Prophet's narration of the story of Hajar and Ismail being left, and of running out of food and water. I'll eliminate some of it. Then she descended for Al-Safa, and when she reached the valley, she tucked up her robe and ran in the valley like a person in distress and troubled, till she crossed the valley and reached the mountains of Al-Marwa. There she stood and started searching, expecting to see somebody, but she could not see anybody. She repeated that running between Safa and Marwa 7 times. Then she reached Marwa the last time. She heard a voice, and she asked herself to be quiet and listened attentively. She heard the voice again and said, "Oh, whoever you may be, you have made me hear your voice. Have you something to help me?" And behold, she saw an angel at the place of Zamzam, digging the earth with his wing till water flowed from that place. She started to make something like a basin around it using her hands in this way, and started filling her water skin with water with her hands, and the water was flowing out, and she scooped some of it. May Allah bestow mercy on Ismail's mother. Had she let the Zamzam flow without trying to control it, or had she not scooped from the water to fill her water skin, Zamzam would have been a stream flowing on the surface of the earth, as opposed to something it is today, which continues to nurture and sustain pilgrims, not just in Mecca, but Medina, and also the surrounding mosques. As Allah has empowered baby Jesus to speak from the crib in response to his mother Maryam alayhi salam's need, so did Allah cause the spring of Zamzam to flow in response to Hajar alayhi salam's need. Ask and you shall receive. It is this spring that is the historical antecedent for the establishment of Mecca. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, continued. Then she drank water and suckled her child, and the angel said to her, "Don't be afraid of being neglected, for this is the house of Allah, which will be built by this boy and his father, and Allah never neglects his people." So she lived in this way, and then again the tradition goes that people came and asked her permission to settle, and it is this that gave birth to the city that we now call Mecca, and the well of Zamzam continues to flow today. Her grave is near the third column of the Kaaba. Al-Shariati explains, what a surprise, since no one, not even prophets, I'll say not even the other prophets, are supposed to be buried in mosques. But in this case, Hajar, the mother of Ismail, is buried in the most holy of holy sanctuaries in Islam. The Kaaba extends towards her grave. It encompasses her. As a result, Allah's house is directed towards her skirt. Right? And this is significant, and these are the layers that we have forgotten. That even the Prophet of Islam is buried in Medina, not in Mecca. But Hajar is buried in the vicinity of the Kaaba. Al-Sharati continues to state that from among all humanity, a black female slave has been given a place at his side and a room in his house. He has come to her house and become her neighbor and her roommate. So now there are two, Allah and Hajar. So we don't just pray towards his house, her house, we pray to their house, right? Under the ceiling of this one space. Charity here declares the unique intimacy. And I would ask you, how many of us let people like this into our homes or break bread with them? I'll come more back to that. Charity here declares the unique intimacy that Hajar alayhi salam has with Allah. Her annihilation, her fana with Allah, her total intimacy with God, and the blessings of her body's presence that nobody else has. That is why the rituals of the Hajj are a memory of Hajar. It is her sunnah. However, ironically, in today's official Islam, women require a mahram to do the Hajj, when Hajar had no mahram. And women are refused the right to run between Safa and Marwa because its occupiers today deem it unfitting a woman, and yet the whole ritual is in the footsteps of a woman who ran. So the word hijra itself, migration, has its root in her name, as does the word muhajir, immigrant. Hijra is what Hajar did. It is a transition from savagery to civilization, from ingratitude and disbelief to belief and submission. Her hijrah was for our journey towards human dignity. Ali Shariati further states, in Hajar's mother language, her name means the city. Even the name is symbolic of civilization. He explains that Hajar's grave is in the midst of the pilgrim's tawaf of the Kaaba, and that the pilgrim is the muhajir who has divorced himself from everything and accepted Allah's invitation to go to Hajj, and who circumambulates Hajar's grave and the Kaaba of Allah simultaneously. Baba Muhyiddin, Sufi Sheikh and Master, said, I came to thinking about Hajj that is happening now, thinking of movement, of millions of people moving together in one love, in oneness, millions of people recreating the experience of a homeless single mother, Hajar alayhi salam, and her baby, Ismail alayhi salam. She calls to us to run between the hills. She calls us to search for the waters springing up to life. So Hajar is the founder of the city of Mecca. Zamzam flows for her. She is the mystic source of Zamzam. Without Zamzam, there would have been no Mecca. Without Mecca, there would have been no Quraysh. Without Quraysh, there would have been no prophet.